Look at the camera. Good morning, everyone. Congratulations to everyone. You made it to the end of the fourth marking period, the end of the school year. We only have 4 days of school left. All the projects, everything looks great. Everything's been turned in, submitted, finished up. We will only have one more class after today. If you still haven't done this self-reflection, I'd encourage you to do it. It's educationally good to just think about your year, think about your quarter, and reflect on what you accomplished, what you're proud of, and perhaps how to improve going forward in the next year or the next course that you go into. But it's the last week of school. It's exciting. Summer is right around the corner. Graduation for you seniors is coming up. All good things. Something you could do this week if you want is I designed these little laptop stands last year and I never got around to cutting them out. Tried one out recently and it puts the Chromebook or a laptop at a nice little angle, elevates it up a little bit so it's easier to see the screen and the webcam. So drop those on a sheet of plywood, cut out a bunch of those little laptop stands. So if you would like one, you could grab a couple pieces, sand them up, take it with you. Or perhaps if you wanted, you could sand it up and give it to somebody as a gift if you want. Something a nice little takeaway for the last week of school. It's kind of amazing though, one full sheet of plywood with all those profile cuts. You can see it filled the dust bin up halfway full of sawdust. Creates quite a bit of dust cutting that 1/4-inch line profile cut all around all those pieces. So picking up from where we left off last time, talking about that Normandy Park School pencil sign, that was a little bit more of a challenge than the other signs. So the pencil wasn't exactly flat, and because of where the eraser is, that's a little bit bigger, so it didn't sit flat on the table. So I had brought it in there, I had secured it down, and I started carving the letters, and noticed that the letters to the left were coming up thicker than the letters on the right, and that's because the pencil was slightly elevated on that side. And you can imagine in a V-bit, something that was here would be narrower than something that's here. That's just how it is. So you got to make sure it's flat, and it wasn't fully flat. So I stopped that cut, cleaned it up again, and this time decided to run a pocket cut to just flatten the top of the pencil. But that really exposed how crooked it was and cut almost a 1/4-inch down on the left and just a 1/16 of an inch in the center. So now I knew that it kind of made the pencil look a little weird, but I knew that it was completely flat. So then I carved in the letters and everything looked great. But then when I put it down next to the other signs, it didn't look like it was centered. And I compared it to the sign and I asked for a picture of the original sign and the text really didn't look like it was in the middle, which is super frustrating. It's a small detail, but details do matter. So I took a piece of wood, just cut it down 1/2 inch thick, 30-degree angles to match the pencil, brought it back up to the same thickness it was originally, and then carved the letters into that piece. Then I could ensure that it was perfectly cut, centered, glued that in place with some Titebond 3 waterproof glue, perfectly coating, smooth that, no gaps, just coated the whole thing with glue with a thin layer, glued it down real strong so a small bead of glue came out all the seams, and then sanded that up nice and clean. That left a little bit of extra on the tip of the pencil, and using a hand plane and a file and some sandpaper, cleaned all that up so that it was even and flat with that tip of the pencil, and blended it in really nice. And there you go. It turned out really well. The crew came and picked it up, gonna go put it back on the sign. Once it's all painted up, I'll be sure to post another video that shows it when it's all finished, so you can see what the completed project looks like, or if you drive by the school, you'll see it there. So that was a lot of fun, and also I wanted to make sure that I explained the whole process to you, because you did projects very similar to this year. That is a real-world example of what we did in class happening out in the real world. It's a real-world example. You know how it was done. Anytime you see signs like this, or things out in the world, you will know how it was manufactured and how it was made. So seeing as we only have a few classes left, I want to do the last segment of Mr. Campbell's Toolbox, some hand tools that you keep in your toolbox. Okay, another tool that I think you definitely need to have in your toolbox is a set of pliers. Needle nose pliers are the kind that have these narrow ends, very useful for getting into small places. Often they have wire cutters on them as well, which also comes in pretty handy, even when you want to cut things other than wire with it. And adjustable ones like this one, which opens up the jaws a little bit bigger. These are kind of rusty, but they work for larger bolts and smaller ones. You want to get yourself a pair that is a quality metal, quality handle, something comfortable in your hand, and doesn't flex when you squeeze on it too much, because you want it to hold tight. Not to be confused with a wrench, and a wrench is not to be confused with pliers. If you're trying to loosen a bolt or tighten a bolt, these are not the things for it. You want to use the wrenches, but sometimes if you just need to hold the end of a bolt while you use the wrench on the other side, they can be useful. Get yourself a set you like, and you'll use them many, many times. Okay, so the next thing we got to talk about to keep in the toolbox is sandpaper, abrasives. Some basic sheets of sandpaper are really critical, low grit, like 80, 100 grit. Keep it in there for when you need to just lightly sand some things. It doesn't take up a lot of room. Sandpaper can get expensive though, so you want to take care of your sandpaper. And if you want something that lasts a long time and also has a lot of uses, is a file. Make sure it has a nice handle on it. A file only cuts in one direction, works similar to sandpaper, but because it's made of steel, it lasts, stays sharp, it's nice. So using a file is also really nice, has a lot of good uses, and nice to have in the toolbox because it'll always be there for you and if you run out of sandpaper. But sandpaper, since it's easy to use, very easy to find, and doesn't take up a lot of room, definitely have a couple pieces of sandpaper in the toolbox. And that will wrap it up for today, everybody. I will see you in class or the Google Meet. Only one more A-Day remaining in the year. I will see you next time. Remember, Morristown cares about you. I care about you. Be excellent to each other.